Let's talk. For many of us, coming to the UK felt like coming to a land of opportunities, education, work, a better life. But what happens when the dream starts to fade? The visa rules that seem designed to punish or keep us out. The cost of living that drains every penny, and a system that takes more than it gives. And to top it off, migrants seem to get blamed for everything from housing shortages to NHS crisis. It's not surprising that many people are asking if moving to the UK or living in the UK is still worth it. So in this video, we'll dive into why the UK is losing its appeal, especially for migrants, and why many are ready to give up the land of opportunities. So if you are still here, kindly subscribe to the channel and like the video. It gives the opportunity for many other people to see the video, and it means a lot to me. It does a lot to also help the channel grow. Getting into the video, the first major issue is the immigration and visa rules. This is a big issue. Now, right now, if you're a student who just graduated and you're hoping to stay in the UK, things have changed. You know, back in the day, before April 2024, a graduate would get a 2-year graduate visa. After that, if they are lucky, they could get sponsorship easily. But now, the rules are a little bit tougher. The minimum salary for a skilled job has jumped from 26,000 to 38,000. So now, you must find a job, or you must be in the field, then you can easily find a job that is willing to pay you at least the salary threshold before you can be sponsored or legally stay in the UK. Now, think about it. How realistic is it for a fresh graduate who is just come out of the university to get a job that pays £38,000 a year or even higher right away? Most entry levels are not even going to pay you that kind of salary. So what do? You come to the UK, you pay all the money for your tuition fee, go through the stress of being an international student, only to face a wall when it comes to getting a job. And that is going to allow you to stay longer in the UK. Now, I know the threshold is reduced when it comes to jobs on the immigration salary list. It's been reduced to about £30,960 per year. But the thing is, the jobs on the immigration salary list are limited to those that are just on demand in the UK. And they may not necessarily align with your career ambitions. Also, it is very difficult to come by a job that pays that amount for an entry-level role. 30,000 is huge. But there is also the entry-level route that reduces the salary threshold further, which means you can be sponsored for jobs that pays less than the 38,000 or the 30,000. But the catch is that you have to be at most 26 years old. But that is not the case for many people that graduate, especially masters. Myself, for instance, by the time I was done with my master's degree, I was just 26. So I wouldn't have just qualified for that particular visa. And it's just not for students. Migrants who are on skilled visa, like myself, have to pay huge amounts just to stay in the country. I paid more than £3,000 for a skilled visa that lasts only for 2 years. And you get 2 years for being allowed to stay. And for those who bring families, it's even worse. I have a colleague, and he has a wife and 2 kids. He had to pay £12,000 to get 2 years of skilled worker visa for himself, his wife, and his 2 kids. About £12,000 for 2 years. And this could be a mortgage deposit, right? For 2 years. You're shelling out all these amounts of money just to have the privilege of being in the UK for a short time before being expected to renew with no guarantees for permanent residence. Now, I know that sounds a little ungrateful because many people would wish to be in the UK. I know it is the dream of many to be in the UK. And if you play your cards well, it will work out for you. But I want to make sure that I give you the different perspectives so that you understand how you can play your cards well if you want to come to the UK. This perspective also needs to be covered. How the visa fees are higher, and for somebody like my colleague who is paying £12,000 for 2 years. Also for those who are on student visa, it feels like the system is intentionally designed to delay you. For example, myself, I've been in the UK for 4 years. This January was exactly 4 years since I came to the UK. I have been contributing to the system in the 4 years. I have been paying taxes without any benefits or public funds. And that is fine. It is just like any other migrant. So I don't expect any special treatment. But the thing is, for all my 4 years in the UK, or all my 4 years in the UK will not count towards my indefinite leave to remain. Just because I was on the student visa for 1 year and on a graduate visa for 2 years. So 3 years of my life in the UK has just gone with, as far as counting the years towards my indefinite leave to remain is concerned. 3 years. Now for those 3 years, I paid for visas, I worked, paid taxes, I even secured driver's license, I assimilated into the UK culture, I committed no crimes. As a matter of fact, I even established or tried to establish my own company. But for some reason, none of those 3 years or any of those activities I did in those 3 years are worthy enough to be counted toward my indefinite leave to remain. It is only when I switched to the skilled visa that the years have started. So you can see how frustrating it is, because you've done every good thing you can do and it doesn't seem to be enough to take you to your goal or get you closer to your goal. We come with high hopes, a lot of high hopes, but the system feels like it is working against you and not with you. But the issue is the same issue, or the same case is not what happens in Canada and other countries. The pathway to permanent residency in Canada and other countries is not as stretched as it is here in the UK. Now, moving on to the weather, let's be honest, it's not exactly a selling point for many people. Just look around. I know it's nice to have a bit of variety, but the constant gray skies and cold weather, it can really wear you down. Just look, everywhere is just gray, you know. After a while, you start to realize the lack of sun. You can go days, weeks without seeing the sun. But you know what they say? They say make hay while the sun shines. But here in the UK, the sun is not even shining. How can you make hay? But on a more serious note, there is a lot of research that shows that sunlight improves happiness, your mood and your well-being. But here in the UK, this is the case where the sun hardly shines. You have to create your own happiness. You have to be very intentional about your own happiness. Otherwise, your mental health will be easily affected. Especially when you have all these other stresses on you. You can wake up in the morning and the sun will just tell you, hey, no happiness here. No happiness here, mate. Your whole mood can spoil over something you have little to no control over. You know, the sunshine also brings vitamin D3 or vitamin D, right? So without the sunshine, it can affect you, literally. And it's unpredictable during the summers. You don't say, oh, but there is summer. If you've lived in the UK, you know that summer is as unpredictable as any other season. So on top of that also, there's a cost of living. Everyone is feeling it. If you go on social media, you see everyone is talking about cost of living. Rent prices are high, energy prices are through the roof. And the groceries keep getting expensive every time. Now it's already difficult to get by. But as a migrant, it feels like you are always on the edge. You know, you've already got all these extra costs, the visa fees, high taxes, sending money back home. And on top of that, you are living in a country where you're expected to pay double for NHS, but you're always blamed for issues with NHS. As a migrant, when you're paying for your visa, there is a portion, there's immigration health center that goes to the NHS. In addition, there is a portion of your taxes that also goes to the NHS when you come to the country. So fundamentally, as a migrant, you are paying double your insurance, health surcharge, and the taxes, the portion of the taxes. But the reality is that migrants contribute more to the NHS than we benefit from it. And this is referenced from the Migration Advisory Committee, and they are the ones saying it. And this is because most of the migrants that come to the UK are young and healthy, and we hardly use the NHS. I can count the number of times I have seen the GP in my 4 years since coming to the UK. All right. But there's always the narrative that migrants are the ones causing NHS delays and people are unable to see GPs because migrants are queuing up or taking the spaces of citizens who are supposed to take. Now, I don't want to be political. This is not to be political. This is just to give you statistics and facts on the matter, right? It is not a case because this is the same narrative that fueled Brexit. But 5 years after Brexit, the narrative is still the same. So migrants cannot just be blamed for every issue, especially when it comes to NHS or every issue in the UK. We can actually have the conversation about the illegal migration, which I'm opposed to, right? But we cannot box every migrant into that same category. We are skilled workers. Some of us contribute to the NHS. Some of us contribute to the economy. We pay taxes and all of that. Yeah, that's it about it. But while all these are going on, there is also the case about isolation and homesickness. You know, it is not something that many people talk about, but it is real. It is a reality. When you come to the UK as a migrant, you often leave your whole home supports behind. Your family, your friends, your community. It's like you're beginning afresh, you know. And even though you are surrounded by people, it's easy to feel completely alone. The cultural differences and just the distance from home can make it very hard for you to fit in. You know, you miss very important moments like birthdays, weddings, the constant yearning to be with family and loved ones. You know, I've just only been able to find a church, which I think it does a lot for me. And this is even more difficult for migrant workers like care workers who are unable to bring their family members to the UK because of visa rules. On top of that, there is the pressure also to make it. You just don't want to survive. You actually want to thrive. But it's difficult when you're battling the feeling of being an outsider, especially when you're still trying to figure out your place in the UK system. So, with all that on your mind, it's not surprising that many migrants think that the UK is not quite the land of opportunity that they were promised. It's not that migrants don't want to work hard. Some of us are actually doing 2 jobs. Some people do 3 jobs. Some are taking extra shifts. But it's just that after all the struggles with taxes, cost of living, isolation, it can feel like the system is working against you instead of supporting you. But despite all of that, we keep going because we know that in the end, it is up to us to make the life we want. But I would also advise you, this is my personal advice to you. You can take it if you like. After everything I've said, if you are already not in the UK and you are outside of the UK, for instance, you are Ghana, Nigeria, Africa, Kenya, wherever you are, and you are planning to come to the UK, and you've saved enough money, like say £20,000, £15,000, £10,000, and it is your hope to come to the UK via the school route as a student, pay your school fees and get a job and stay here permanently. If you do not have a solid plan, I would plead with you to rethink that decision, because the visa rules constantly keep changing, right? I was fortunate to be on graduate visa for 2 years, but 2 years prior to me coming to the UK, that visa route was not available. Okay, so the visa route keep changing. You need to make sure that you are coming into a system where you have a certain level of control. So I would not advise anybody now who wants to come to the UK with saved up money to want to come and use it for school and after that settlement. It is not an easy route. It is not cut out just straightforward like that. But hey, who am I? I'm just sharing my experience. I'm just sharing the exposure I've had with people, the conversations I've had with people, and the struggles some people have also been through. But I hope it is helpful for most of you. If it is, you know what to do. Kindly like this video, subscribe to the channel, share it for others to know. I will see you in another video.